An old man with oil-slick hands, a gray flannel shirt, and a face carved by decades of engine fumes and Midwestern winters. His name, if anyone bothered to ask, was Carl Simmons, but most folks just called him Gramps. He owned a tiny garage 2 blocks from Main Street. Carl's Auto and Diesel. No flashy signs, no website, just a hand-painted board out front and the smell of axle grease that lingered like memory. He fixed everything. Old Chevys, busted tractors, even the town's snowplows. But he never talked much, grunted a lot, nodded if you thanked him. No small talk, no personal stories. Every morning, 6:30 sharp, he'd roll up the doors, wipe his hands on the same faded rag, and turn the radio to the local station. Always classic country. But no one knew where he went at night. He never appeared at the diner, never attended the church fish fry. No family, no visitors, just Carl and his tools. One day, a tan Humvee rolled into town. Not military issue, not anymore. It was stripped, civilian-owned, retrofitted with oversized tires and matte paint. The young man behind the wheel wore a Marine hat backward. "Hey," he said, stepping into the garage. "You Carl?" Carl didn't answer. He just pointed at the truck. "Won't shift into fourth," the kid said. "And it leaks something. Might be trans fluid. Think you can fix it?" Carl walked around the vehicle, slowly. His eyes locked on the rear quarter panel. Barely visible beneath the matte paint was an emblem, almost worn away, a red spear behind a black skull, the mark of the 108th Recon Logistics Battalion. Carl froze. He reached out with a gloved hand and gently brushed the paint. "Where'd you get this truck?" "Bought it from a guy in Kentucky. Said it came from a base decommission." Carl said nothing, just turned and walked to his tool bench. That night, he didn't close the shop. He stayed. Under the single hanging bulb, he sat on a stool, an old wooden box on his lap. From it, he pulled a patch, black skull, red spear, same emblem. His hands trembled slightly. He ran his thumb over the threads. The past didn't just knock, it kicked the damn door down. 35 years ago, Carl had been Sergeant First Class Carl Simmons, head mechanic and field engineer for the 108th Recon Logistics Battalion, the kind of guy who could rebuild an engine while mortar fire lit up the horizon. He'd served in Iraq, Bosnia, Panama. Quietly, precisely, efficiently, no medals on his wall, no uniforms in display cases, just a wrench. After a final convoy run in Mosul that ended in flames and twisted steel, he came home. Quietly. Alone. He opened the shop and never spoke of it again. But the emblem on that Humvee, it brought it all back. He stayed up that night cleaning the truck, not just the engine. He stripped paint from the rear panel, slowly, carefully, restoring the original markings. When the kid returned the next day, he stared at the vehicle. "What the?" Carl just said. "It's done." Over the next few days, people noticed something different. Carl began opening the shop 15 minutes earlier. He added a small flagpole out front. He cleaned the windows. And one day, he did something no one expected. He put up a new sign. Right next to Carl's Auto and Diesel, it read, 108th Recon, never idle. That weekend, the Marine came back. This time, he brought 2 others. One had a prosthetic leg. The other, a patch over one eye. They shook Carl's hand in silence. Then they got to work. Wrenches turned, engines revved, grease stained every hand. No one spoke of the past. But it was there, in every turn of the socket, every scrape of the knuckle, a brotherhood reborn. What started as a quiet garage became something more. Old vets began showing up, bringing broken parts, sharing bad coffee, swapping silent nods. The town didn't understand it at first, but then came the Saturday. Carl didn't open the shop. Instead, he rolled a rusted deuce-and-a-half truck to the town square. On the tailgate, a single framed photo of 12 soldiers. One of them, unmistakably, was young Carl. No speech, no announcement, just a table, a hat, a plaque. The crowd gathered, and the mayor, fumbling his words, read a proclamation. To Carl Simmons, for honorable service and unseen sacrifice. You didn't just fix trucks, you carried the past forward. Carl just nodded. Later, one of the Marines, now working full-time in the shop, asked, "Why now, old man? Why not tell them years ago?" Carl didn't look up from the carburetor. "Didn't matter if they knew," he said. "What mattered was we kept running." And outside, the new flag on the pole flapped in the breeze. The sign outside now read two names: Carl's Auto and Diesel 108th Recon, never idle. And each morning, the tiny garage in Maple Rock looked more like a motor pool on a forward operating base than a town shop. Veterans of every branch drifted in. Some brought busted engines, others just brought coffee. But all of them brought something else: memories. Carl, now in his late 70s, still opened the shop before sunrise. But something in him had shifted. He wore his old field jacket over his flannel. He stood straighter, talked a little more. He didn't just fix trucks anymore. He listened, he guided, he passed down what he knew, and in doing so, he passed down who he was. Word spread. A local journalist, curious about the sudden activity at the garage, dropped by one morning. "What's going on here?" she asked. Carl didn't answer, but a young veteran named T.J. stepped forward. "It's not just a shop," he said. "It's where ghosts go to work through their noise." Then came the fire. One night, a short circuit sparked an old oil can near the back bench. The flames spread fast. By the time the fire department arrived, half the building was engulfed. Carl was inside, trying to save the old deuce and a half. They pulled him out, coughing, barely conscious. The garage was lost. The next morning, the charred remains stood smoking under the gray Kansas sky. Carl sat on a plastic chair across the street, hands bandaged, face empty. Nothing left but ashes and a melted signpost. But by noon, they started coming. One by one. The same veterans who had gathered to fix engines now brought hammers, nails, scrap. A retired CB brought a trailer of lumber. A former Air Force mechanic rigged up a generator. By nightfall, the rebuild had begun. And Carl watched, this time with tears. In 3 weeks, the new shop was finished. It wasn't fancy, still smelled like grease. But above the new steel doors hung a fresh sign: Carl's Auto, powered by the 108th. And below it, engraved in metal, "Never idle, never forgotten." On reopening day, the mayor came again. This time, no fumbling. She read a citation, officially naming Carl's garage a historical veterans site. Reporters showed up. A small camera crew from a military tribute channel filmed the event. Carl spoke briefly. "I didn't set out to start anything. Just wanted to keep engines running. Guess the engines found their own way back." In the months that followed, the shop became more than a memorial. It became a mission. Younger vets trained under Carl. Families brought their teens to learn basic repairs. Local schools sent vocational students to observe. Carl created a small wall inside the shop, photos of the 108th Recon over the years. And next to it, a box labeled, "If you served, leave a patch." Dozens did. Carl never said much, but he'd pause at that wall every morning. A moment of silence before the tools started turning. Then, one day, Carl didn't show up. The Marines at the shop waited, called his home. No answer. They found him peacefully in his chair, old cap in his lap, radio still softly playing classic country. Next to him on the table, a worn patch, the black skull with the red spear. The funeral filled the town. Veterans came from states away. Trucks from Carl's shop lined the roads. The flag flew at half-mast. TJ delivered the eulogy. He never asked for thanks. But he gave us a reason to keep going. He didn't just fix engines, he fixed what war tried to break. After the service, they buried Carl next to his late wife, under a tree near the field where kids still played. A stone marked his grave. Carl Simmons, Sergeant First Class, 108th Recon Mechanic, brother, builder of men. And beneath that, never idle. A year later, on Memorial Day, the shop held an open house. Engines hummed, veterans laughed, the wall of patches had doubled in size. And in the back corner, TJ had placed a frame. Inside it, a photo of Carl, young, grease-covered and smiling next to a Humvee. Below it, he kept us running.